Okay, we are live. Okay, hang on, let me, almost, we are live, but I just need to fix one thing here. It looks like there is one of our connections here. Okay, yeah, it looks like one of the is off. Okay, so we're on YouTube and somewhere else right now. Facebook is not on right now, so Facebook is having a technical issue with our stream today, but the video, we'll post the video. Okay. Welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's Discovery Day live stream for January 26th, 2021. We are back with Fabled Silver Gold, Peter Holy. Peter, welcome back.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for having me back. A lot has changed since the last time we talked.
Peter, that would be, one of the big understatements of 2021. The stock has basically doubled, in the last couple of weeks. Massive volume, record volume coming in. So there's definitely, investor interest in what you're doing. In the drill results that came out Monday. So before we get into the results, and I want you to kind of explain to our audience in kind of layman's terms so they kind of understand how that compares to other projects. But before we get into that, can you explain just in 30-second snapshot, the project in Parral, Mexico, what's so important about it, why you got involved in mining for, a couple of years, let's just say, some massive success, and what brought you to this project?
Yeah. A quick overview, Jack, is that on the other side of Sierras are the mountains, and these are called the Sierra Occidental Mountains or Coastal Mountains. Has very similar geology. So a lot what I've learned there, I'm applying to over in the Parral area. But interesting enough, if you pay attention to Parral, I'm actually working on a new map for people area. There's a 40 kilometer trend of mineralization that has deposits on it. And on this trend, the largest, which is our neighbor to the west, is a property that's owned by a private miner in Mexico. They're huge. They've been around. Now, these mines have produced in excess of 500 million ounces, which is our next door neighbor. And in addition to that, they started in 1538, if you think that's been going. And San Francisco de Oro group, they're producing 8 million ounces of silver annually. And this is our next door neighbor. So often what you say to yourself, and we're in direct line of this mineralized trend. So, there's an old saying that in the shadow of an old mine, you'll find a new one. Well, we're in that shadow.
Okay. So, what's, so this is very interesting. I just want to this needs to sink in because, your neighbors basically, this is in Mexico, right? This is where the Spaniards came looking for gold, silver. This was the dream, right? So these mines in your neighborhood have been producing silver for 500 years.
Correct.
And have pulled out over, I think you said 500 million ounces already.
Yeah, 500 million ounces.
Okay. And okay, so can we infer, and so you're right in that line. So in layman's terms, what's the probability that this project that you have can have, let's just say 100 million ounces?
I think it's great. I mean, we have the position, we have the land package. But if you remember the last few times we talked, Jack, I've been hammering home all the time. I'm talking about structure. And I know a lot of people, they may be neophytes to the mining thing, but structure is what you need. And basically, this 40-kilometer trend is a big structure. And no one's really paid attention to this on the property from the previous owner. So it's our luck.
Okay, so Peter, I think we're getting I think there might be the internet might be lagging coming from you. So I may have to ask you to repeat a couple of things. So, okay, so the structure, getting back into the structure, what's so significant about the structure that you have in Parral?
Well, originally the previous owners identified it as they were talking about two veins, the Santa Maria and the Santa Maria dos, and their veins. Well, we now know that, I'm sorry, that they're not veins. Is actually what they are is veins. And to clarify that further, the hole that was of interest to me was a hole called SM18-03, and it's on a section that we put out with our last news release. And why this hole was so interesting is after careful examination of their assay results, is the previous people have reported approximately 10 meters of a kilo of silver. Well, in reality, yes, that is so true. But you know what? It was 45 or 47 meters of 230 some grams of silver. That's the structure. That's the width of the structure. The thing about that hole is that hole ended in mineralization. So you did not know the width of the structure, the true width of it. So the hole that we reported on Monday, hole number 1, what we did was we drilled at 45 degrees to intersect the structure above. Determined 2 or 3 things. Number 1, we knew it was going to be an oxide.
Okay, Peter, wait. Peter, I think we have to have you repeat stuff because it seems like there's an internet delay on your side, and apparently all the good stuff is so we have to have you repeat it now.
Okay, no, and why we're drilling it, but the hole that we just reported was drilled to investigate not only the true width of the structure, as the hole underneath us didn't go through the structure, but also to evaluate the oxide content. And we always know in lower grade than the sulfides. And the reason why is groundwaters have percolated through the ground and through erosion removed some of the sulfides or their values. So having said that, Jack, the hole reported over 68 meters of continuous mineral. Remember, the hole underneath it reported 45 meters. We went through the whole package. So we gained another 15 meters in the width of the structure. Now, 68 meters may not sound very much to you or to anybody else, but think of it this way for a visual reference. Let's take 60 meters. 60 meters is the equivalent of an 18-story building. So imagine if you were on the ground and the drill hole or the core from the drill hole was 18 meters or 18 floors high, and you were looking up the building to the 18th floor, and you saw silver mineralization all along that. That's the structure. Would you pay attention to it? I certainly would.
Okay, so in layman's terms, basically, so far that goes down straight down 18 stories or more.
Correct.
Okay, then we got to figure out the width, to figure out how the economics of mining it, all that. But that's okay. So that's a pretty impressive visual. 18 stories of silver. That's like who was the guy that came from Mexico in search? Was it Cortez? This is his dream.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. And you have to remember, putting it in context is next door neighbors have been mining for 700 years, and they're mining these big structures. And long and behold, you have a structure that is 18 stories high that's impregnated with silver. Now, if that doesn't tell you something, nothing will.
Okay, so I just saw there was some comments in the so we got in the audience comments saying that 500 million ounces over 500 years is not that much. Now, how were their mining techniques, at the time of Cortez?
Oh my God, I can actually, a long time ago, once upon a time when I was young and beautiful, I went into an old mine that was mined by the Spaniards and the Aztecas, which are pre-Montezuma in Mexico. And you would walk in this thing, and the vein would be about 2 feet wide, and you'd walk in sideways because you couldn't walk front in. So you'd shuffle in sideways where they mined out this vein completely, like, 2 feet wide exactly. And you got to remember, they're using rocks and hammers and all kinds of stuff. And then when they wanted to go up on the vein, they had a pole, and the pole had little chops all the way along it. They had it about 45 degrees, and these were the footsteps to go up and keep picking at it. And what they would do, Jack, is they would gather some wood, and they would set a fire, and they would heat the quartz and the rock really hot, and then they would throw water on it. And of course, it would break on impact. And that's part of how they were mining this stuff.
So I guess today, I mean, right now, how much are these guys pulling out? How many ounces of silver are they pulling out? Your neighbor?
Next door neighbor is IMSIS mining 8 million ounces per year.
Okay, that's not bad. So what is okay? So you're doing this drilling now. You have a couple. Do you have how many more holes do you have that you're waiting for the assay results on right now?
We've just completed hole number 5, so there's 4 holes outstanding at present.
Okay, so there's going to be some more news coming out shortly, which is going to discuss the results you have there.
Yeah, hole number 2 will be drilled, or is drilled, or has been drilled underneath hole number 1, except at minus 65 degrees. And that's to go on the other side of the hole that ended the mineralization, except this hole is targeting sulfide mineralization. And as we all know, sulfides are higher grade than oxides. And we have a big structure, and now we're in sulfides. So now we're going to find out, just what this thing has to give.
Okay, let's go into some audience questions. Okay, so Pretty's asking, how far is Endeavor Silver's, is it Guanchevy mine from Santa Maria, from your mine?
Oh gosh, that's 45 kilometers, I guess, close to the other side of Parral.
Okay.
Not that far, and that is, and that camp, that's a separate camp within the district. And that by itself has produced, I think it's about 300 million ounces.
Okay, so we have a technical question coming from Adam.
Sure.
How much? I don't know if you can see it here on your screen. Okay, so how much of the silver usually gets leaked out in the oxide zone versus the silver zone? Are you expecting over 1 kilogram a ton of silver in the sulfide zone?
Well, the hole above us reported 10 meters of a kilo, and that was in the interface between the oxides and the sulfides. So yes, possibly you could have kilo plus an intersection. As far as how much of the silver gets leaked out, that's a tough one. Like it depends how much groundwater is going through there, and et cetera, and the rock type and everything else. But I would guesstimate that you could probably lose up to 60% of your sulfide content in the sulfides.
Okay, Eric is asking, in your drilling program, how many drill holes total are you going to drill? 8,000 meters that you're going to drill?
Yeah, great question, Eric. Probably it's going to end up to be about 30 holes. Now, you got to remember each hole, as we complete each hole, depending upon what it gives us, we'll drill another hole, but maybe it's going to be a deeper hole or a longer hole. So, there's always going to be plus or minus 2 or 3 drill holes in the total program of how we're going to do it.
Okay. Forget all of a sudden all the questions are coming in now. So let's go to wait, hang on, Jonathan. Okay, Jonathan is asking, you're used to being bought out. If that is the plan, when do you expect this to happen?
Good one, Jonathan. Yes, I've been bought out 3 times. Am I when that'll happen? I think this first round of drilling, this first phase of 8,000 meters, is really going to put us on the chart, and a lot of people are going to be looking at us. But the question is, and this is truly the question: is that we as a company, or we as the board of directors, if someone was to make an offer, we have to go to the shareholders, because it's the shareholders who own the company. We don't own the company. So we have to say to the shareholders, listen, here's the price being offered to us. Are you happy with it or not at this premium to market? And if the shareholders say yay, well, you know what? I did my job. They made money and everybody's happy. If they say nay, hey, you know what? I just put more ounces into it and bring up the price tag.
Pretty's asking, do grades improve with depth?
It depends on what kind of deposit you're talking about, Jack. In this case, we're dealing with a high-end epithermal deposit. So if you can imagine kind of would be a good example, like a carrot to some degree. So up top, you have your breccia zones and some structures or whatever. But because of temperature, right at the very top, you have bonanza gold, the multi-ounces per ton gold. And then there's an interface between the gold and the silver, which depends upon temperature. And then you get your gold with your silvers, bonanza silvers, and that's where we are. And as you go further down that route of the carrot, deeper and deeper depth, you start to collect, along with your gold and silver, you start to collect other metal credits such as galena, which will give you lead and copper and zinc. So we are really high up in the system. So, yeah, it can go a long ways down. And yes, it can improve depth, yes.
I was asking, how many ounces did Scorpio have out at over $4 a share?
Well, when they
Peter, you have to start again. All of a sudden, we get the delay. So
I think we're in the vicinity of about 65, 70 million ounces on the one deposit, Yester Senora, Jack. But, since that point in time, and as I had found on the property, they've been mining 3 other deposits. So this is the 4th mine. So, is there more than 65 million ounces at the property I was at? Way below that. Actually, to the point where at America Silver at the coastal operation, because of byproduct, and when I say byproduct, I mean when you mine your silver, you get credits of zinc, copper, and lead. Because of those byproduct credits, the last I saw the operations, the cost per ounce was negative $32.
We got questions here. Many people are asking, do you see a 1 million ounce deposit?
Yeah, based on the drill results, I just drilled 1 hole. I can't tell you if there's 52 million, 100 million ounces there. I mean, let me drill a few more.
Okay. Let's see. We got so a couple of people are asking about this. This project, the potential here. Let's see if we can. Peter. Yeah, it's every time you say something very important, the internet cuts out. So it's okay. So let's get to okay. Question. Okay, so the land. How does the deal work with the land you're on? Like, I guess this is a question about.
Yeah, and Major Leagues, who wrote that in, is right on the head. Typically in Mexico, you have 2 scenarios. You'll have private land, or you'll have land owned by ejidos. And what an ejido is, it's a community that together, and they're not very large usually, or there could be multiple ones that own common ground or whatever. Now, when you're dealing with ejidos, and I've dealt with a lot of ejidos and great relationships with them, but you have to make a long-term agreement with them, and there is times where you'll hear about blockades from the ejidos or whatever, because they're not getting what they want. On the other hand, the best case scenario, as in our case, you're dealing with a private individual. In this case, it's a farmer. And we have a lifetime agreement signed with the farmer. That was one of the first things I did. A year to him. And in addition, that when we have a heavy equipment over in the area, we'll drill or dig some water holes so when the rainy season comes, his cattle have some water. So it's a win-win for both of us.
Okay. Okay. Negative. Okay. So Giuseppe, you just said negative drill costs with byproducts from silver.
Now, what it is? Okay, I'll just give you an example for people to understand. You're mining a rock. This rock, in this case, at the San Rafael, contains gold, silver, lead, copper, and zinc. Okay. The value, so you mine the rock as a whole and you get all those metals. Now, the cost that you get in payment for the more than pays for all your mining costs of extraction, milling, processing, and everything else, and also gives you money. So to the point of negative dollar silver, that's how it happens.
Okay. Yeah. Again, we're getting internet delays every time something good comes. Let's see here. We get again. A couple of people asked about this. Aside from silver, found any other precious metals that surfaced?
No, we have a gold content too. There's gold with all the silver.
Okay.
Higher grade the sulfides, the higher grade the.
Okay, so Yukon Cornelius is asking, he's looking at your map. When will the results of 4 come out?
24, that's number 4. Number 4, actually, that. Let me see, last Friday. And so typically, Yukon, it takes about 3 weeks to get the assay results.
Okay, and how much further east would you drill as part of the next steps if the results are positive?
I'm just going to keep marching across meters east. I think the next step out I have planned is 200 meters east.
Okay. A couple of people are asking about silver prices. What's your silver prices in the next years?
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, and silver, it's there used to be a ratio of these ETF funds. That's when they separated their ways. But more and more uses for silver that we see today, it's crazy. In addition to that, you know what? There's a lot of tired silver mines. They've been around for so long. You know, you imagine over next door at Grupo Mexico. I mean, 700 years. You can't tell me it's as fresh as you are, Jack, and it must be getting a little tired. So I think silver prices should be in for a good run and very stable.
Okay. Eric is asking, how many drill holes are planned to help define the size of the structure?
On this phase, out of the 8,000 meters, what I'm planning to do, subject to something major happening, is I'm going to drill about 4,000 meters testing the Santa Maria structure across the property. And then the additional 4,000 meters is, you have to remember, we have those 11 IP targets that are first priority Santa Maria structure, never have been, you know, virgin, never drill a hole in them. I mean, I'm definitely going to test those. I mean, because that's a discovery. It's a game changer.
Okay. So King T, is he have virgin veins? When will we start drilling for analysis?
Yeah, that's the second part of the drilling program towards the testing of the IP anomalies and the intersection with these other 19 veins. Yes.
Okay. So a couple of people are asking that you have a meeting coming up, an investor meeting coming up. Are you going to be talking about possible buyouts or raising capital?
Neither. No, no, neither actually. I'll tell you the purpose of it. I'm intending mines of money. I know a lot of these people. I know them very well. I'd consider them friends. That's how long I've known these financiers and mine analysts and everything else. And they were all surprised they came out of retirement. And we're going to have a good catch up, and I'll tell them what we're doing, and they will put us on their radar screen and watch us, and that's all I want them to do, because down the road, if we need more horsepower, I know the people in Europe will be there.
Okay. Share price is below what it should be based on the current find. What do you think the price of the stock should be right now based on what we know? So based on public market information, this is a loaded question.
It is. I'll get my rusty razor blades out before I answer that one. But no, Jack. I think it's found a new base around 20 cents right now. You got to remember, this thing has gone up 4. So it's probably found a new base at 20. There's going to be another catalyst. As I told you and the shareholders, we currently have all our papers in for listing on the OTC. We expect that any day now. I think that will help avail investors to be able to invest in the company. But the next drill hole, and they're supposed to behave like they're like in the structure. That'll take it to a whole different level, no doubt about it.
Peter, the internet broke up. Can you repeat your last?
Yep, sure. No, I'd say the next catalyst for the company moving upwards is if the next drill hole in the structure width comes back with significant mineralization, that'll just take it to a whole new price.
Okay, this is the great interview, because every time you say something very compelling, the internet.
There's probably someone censoring me from talking.
This is great. Okay, so we got your initial findings with Scorpio compared with this. So Scorpio compared with this, were you more excited then or now with the initial results? How does the initial results of Scorpio compare to the initial results here?
Well, I'll tell you, yes, it's an deposit. If we drilled 17 meters of very strong mineralization, we were just ecstatic. So, we're getting bigger intersections than that. So I think in the long run, this thing has more legs probably than.
Okay. We get a question. You mentioned intersecting veins producing big cavities. How many of these intersecting points do you suspect exist at Santa Maria?
Suspecting, due to what's observed visually, the IP induced polarization survey, we can see right now on the property in the vicinity of 8 of these structures smashing together.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, what else do we have? In terms of, let's see if we can. I guess a lot of people talk the structure is the main. This is the main takeaway. This is not just a vein; it's a structure that you have.
Yeah, structures, big structures are regional. They go for a long time, and historically there's over 40 kilometers of mineralized trend, to the northwest. This is one big structure. So they're long-lived, have longevity, and you get structure and structure, you will get metal.
Okay. What? Okay, so I think to recap, what are the catalysts coming up over the next let's call it 6 weeks? What else should investors keep their eye on?
I think in the next 6 weeks, probably what you're going to see is at least 3 drill holes. Now, interesting enough, 2 of those holes that'll be coming out one after another would be hole number 2 and hole number 3. Now, you got to remember, all those 3 holes are all drilled in the same plane or the same fence. And hole number 3 was designed to intersect the structure at a vertical depth of 350 meters below surface, way down there. And so once you have the results of hole 3, and then you can look at hole 3, hole 2, hole 1, all in one section to get the big picture down to 350 meters, then you're going to start seeing the real potential. Because you got to remember, the resource that has been calculated on this property in general has only been down to 125 meters below surface, Jack. So I'm hitting the structure at 350 meters below surface. This comes back with serious silver.
Peter, I think the internet connection is on my end. Something is happening. Yeah, we got it broke off. I was asking about the catalyst, so I'm gonna have to. I apologize. I'm gonna have to, if you can just start again. What are the big catalysts coming up for the next 4 weeks?
The biggest catalyst in the next 4 weeks, Jack, is the drill holes, of course. But really interesting will be the holes number 2 and number 3, because not only are holes lane, so you'll be able to look at a section and you can see hole number 1, hole number 2, hole number 3, what it hit. You can see the width, you can see the silver values. But more importantly, hole number 3 was designed to intersect the structure at minus 350 meters below surface. If this is remember, the resource calculated to date is only down to 125 meters below surface in general. So you just increase the potential, 2.5 times of depth of whatever was outlined previously. So this thing can grow very fast, very fast.
Okay. Okay. So and to recap, we got a question from Michael. When will the next drilling results be announced? As you said, every 2. So the next the new holes are coming. I think you mentioned that, right? When is when is that coming up?
Yeah, hole number 2 would be the next one out. I expect the latter part of next week. So if that's the case, then it would be the week after next, sometime, that we would have drill results out.
Okay, excellent. Okay, Peter, and then I want to thank you, and we're going to catch up with on the next live stream. Hopefully, that will be cooperating. I think we get a combination happening on my end here. So this is, but it's very exciting. This is, it gives people more suspense whenever you say something very important and the internet cuts out. It's good stuff.
That's Big Brother watching me, Jack.
It probably is. At these days, it's probably what it's about. So, okay, yeah. Peter, thank you very much. I'll see you live stream.
Okay, be safe.
Thank you.
Bye now.
All right, so let's get next present. Sorry about the internet. Thank you. We got some internet challenges happening. This thing. Okay, let's get ready for our next presenter. AIML. Okay, hang on 1 second. Oh, wait. Okay, stand by. Okay. Tim.
Yes. How are you today, Jack?
I'm fantastic. My internet, not so great, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what that's like, unfortunately.
I'm hoping we're gonna have some. I'm not sure who's in it. I'm hoping it's gonna cooperate. Maybe you're the good luck charm, Tim. So yeah, let's make sure we get everything set up here. We get a lot of yeah, definitely a lot of people here. Yeah, a lot of people here in the audience here. Okay. Okay, so welcome to Wall Street Reporter's Investors Discovery Day live stream, January 26th. We're back with AIML. AIML stock symbol is AIML on the CSE. Tim, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back, Jack.
It seems like there's a lot of market excitement about today's news announcement. Exactly like kind of the findings that you had with your technology being used by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is significant. So can you exactly what that news release means? What happened? What did you do? And what what study? What those findings could mean really for the potential of the company? What's the significance for HealthGauge, for AIML?
Yeah, happy to do that. An incredibly significant pilot project that we were involved with. As we mentioned in our news release, it was a study that was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and it was focused on studying ways to reduce pregnancy complications and mortality by making healthcare more accessible using wearable solutions such as ours. And HealthGauge was invited in 2019 to participate in this study as the sole technology provider to the study, which in and of itself was an exciting moment for us.
No, I mean, a big validation. I mean, that's the Bill Gates Foundation is no joke.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. A serious foundation that does some serious research work all over the world. And we're very proud and pleased to be a part of that. The study itself was focusing primarily on conditions such as eclampsia in pregnant women. And eclampsia is a serious condition that is actually one of the leading causes of death in pregnant women, both for the mother and the unborn child. And it's brought on by hypertension or high blood pressure. And so the ability to monitor on an ongoing basis the vital signs, including blood pressure, is a critical way to intervene early and mitigate the possibility of serious risk or death from conditions such as eclampsia. And so this, as I said, this study happened in 2019 and into 2020. And there were three main conclusions to the study. Number one,
I think that I want to back up for 1 second. So the main idea really, and here's I think the key thing is essentially they're using your technology, which is the wearable,
correct,
the wearable, but the AI, the machine learning.
Yes.
For the monitoring, the whole, because I mean, you're really, I think investors need to understand you're a software play. It's an AI machine learning play. It's not a hardware play. You're not.
Yeah, not at all. No, what we are is sorry about that. I get excited about news releases like this, and I forget that there's some viewers in your audience that might not know our backstory. But AIML is a leading digital health solutions provider in the wearable tech space. But what we really do is provide the guts to how it all works, meaning the artificial intelligence software and the platform on the other side that puts out actionable information to the doctor, to the patients, to other healthcare providers, and other family members, and so on and so forth. So we're actually hardware agnostic. We do have a version of our own technology.
That's the device. That's your device.
This is our device that we are licensing from a manufacturer in China. So it is our device, quote unquote, but we're not slave to it. In other words, we don't really care where or how the data is aggregated. It can be aggregated through our device. It can be aggregated through other solutions like an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, a Google Watch, and so on and so forth. What's important to us is what we do once we get our hand on the data that devices like this are able to provide. And we use our patent-protected artificial intelligence technology to assess and learn and bring out the other side real-time actionable data that the doctors and the users, the wearers of our technology, are able to immediately use to create better health outcomes for themselves. So in this particular study, it was a combination of our wearable device, which was measuring their vital signs, such as their blood pressure, their heart rates, temperatures, blood oxygen levels, and other vital signs that your doctor measures every time you go in for a checkup. In conjunction with that, the users were given our app to mount onto a cell phone to aggregate that data, and then that data was provided back to our cloud-based platform, back to the doctors, so that they would have actionable information by which to make some decisions on behalf of that patient for the best interest of that pregnancy. So that is kind of the overview of what we do and what our involvement in this particular study was. And there was 3 conclusions to the study. One was that, beyond a doubt, our technology helped women gain a better outcome to their heart health by using our technology. Number 2, the setting for this was in rural areas of Bangladesh. And while conditions like eclampsia are major health conditions to women all over the world, they're especially deadly and troublesome in the developing world, mainly because women just don't have timely access to health care to get the medicine that they need to be able to overcome the condition in time. And a lot of the women in this study were in areas where there were no digital networks available. So our technology was used, still, this in combination with the phone apps, to aggregate that data. And each week when the attending nurses were coming into the village to see how the patient was doing, to assess their overall condition, the data was gathered up off the devices by the nurse and taken back to larger centers where there was access to the internet, and then that information was uploaded into the cloud. And so it showed the configurability of our solution in areas of the world where they don't even have internet. And third, and mainly from our perspective, from a commercialization standpoint, maybe the most important, is how seamlessly we were able to integrate our solution into defined existing healthcare structures, giving support to the healthcare workers and the patients. And so that was a very, very important conclusion from our point of view. And so those are conclusions specific to the study. But when we look at what that means to us on a more global scale, number one, it was proof of concept of our technology, and it shows the vast commercial opportunities that are available to us and within our adaptable business model.
That was just, this represented really just one use case for your technology.
Exactly.
It's really, I think the concepts with the stock is, I think for investors to really understand the opportunity here, I think they need to really understand this.
Sorry, you're kind of cutting out, Jack. Could you repeat what your last comment was? Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, we're having internet issues here today. So okay. So I think for investors to understand the upside potential for the stock, it's really important for them to understand what are the markets that your technology addresses, the AI, the machine learning, the whole SaaS.
So our sweet spot is any chronic medical condition for which patients today are regularly going for visits with their healthcare providers. So that includes things like pregnancy and the different complications that might arise from pregnancy. It includes diabetes. It includes weight management problems, pain management problems, drug addiction problems, and just a whole broad spectrum of other potential maladies for which people on a very regular basis are going in to see their medical providers. So there's an incredibly broad range that are immediately applicable to what we do and what we can provide. And so understanding how configurable our technology is, both to different types of scenarios such as this, the use on pregnant women with potential problems as an example, but also how readily it can be adapted and fit within existing healthcare structures, within an existing healthcare provider's medical plan, or the structure that nurses and doctors are used to in their day-to-day workflow, and so on and so forth. So really important to understand how configurable, how malleable our system is to fit into whatever the healthcare needs are.
So I think Tim, I think the key takeaway is, okay, so massive, you're addressing massive market. This is, we're talking about, I don't know about, the 7 billion people on the planet. Let's just say a couple 100 million people right now, maybe more, really are potential customers for this. In other words, they need the vital signals monitoring. Also, we talked about another market opportunity, which is the elderly monitoring, what are the vital signs, all that, which is, huge market by itself. That in itself is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And Tim, so we got the massive market opportunity. Now, here's the exciting part. Explain to us the business model. How does your business model work?
Sure. Okay. There's probably 6 main points I want to make with respect to business model. Number one is that we are a B2B business model. In other words, our model is not putting product on the store shelf and trying to compete with Apple Watches or BitFits or Fitbits, sorry, or any of the other retail type products that are out there. Our customer base is insurance companies, ACOs, other healthcare systems like the one that was involved in this study through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation study, and even large companies that self-insure. So that's our sweet spot market. For the model itself, we're modeling ourselves along the lines of Livongo. If your viewers out there are familiar with Livongo, which I'm sure most of them are, and Livongo has done an admirable job but we see some areas where we think that we can improve on what Livongo has done, and specifically in three ways. I think we can do a better job than Livongo has done. One is that ours is an artificial intelligence driven system, and the key to artificial intelligence, as many of your viewers are probably aware, is that the more data you feed into it, whether on a specific patient or on a large population of patients, the more data you submit to it, the smarter it becomes and the better conclusions that it draws in a more timely fashion. Meaning you as a particular user, let's say for your diabetes management, the more you use it, the better the results are going to be that the system provides back to you because of the artificial intelligence.
Tim, Tim, I think we should, for some perspective, so investors understand the Livongo and why, the significance. So Livongo was put out for, what is it, $18 billion originally, something like that, right?
Yeah, so Livongo is a company that started in the diabetes monitoring and coaching space about 5 years ago, and they built it into a substantial company to the point where in about the last 6 months, they were taken over by Teladoc, and the entire transaction was about an $18.5 billion transaction, and Livongo got bought out at, I think it was $159 a share. So it was a substantial buyout by Teladoc because Livongo has done an admirable job at penetrating the diabetes monitoring and coaching market. But a couple points, as good of a job as they've done in that market, they only scratched the surface. Their penetration into the diabetes market is just a couple percentage points. So there's still a lot of room in the diabetes market, number one. And number two, there are a lot of other diseases or conditions similar to diabetes that our product is applicable for, whereas Livongo's was not. And I mentioned before that things like pain management, weight management, and so on.
I think, okay, so Tim, I think one of the key things is that essentially, I mean, I don't know if it's fair to say, I don't want to I don't know if it's correct, I don't know if technically, but in other words, basically you're able to do the same things as Livongo is doing better, because with Livongo, at the input the information, I mean, it's like idiotic to have to rely on people to input the data. Your thing does it automatically. It's idiot proof.
That's right.
It's where the doctor gets it real time, and then the machine analyzes the data, all that good stuff.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, you touched on a couple really, really good points. One is that our product is automated, meaning it's providing vital information back to you and to your caregiver around the clock, when you're working, when you're sleeping, when you're exercising, when you're stressed, when you're happy, and so on and so forth. So it's giving real-time, real, meaningful, actionable data, as opposed to a model like Livongo, where the user had to sit down and manually enter the data themselves. And that's problematic for a couple of reasons. One is that anytime somebody has to enter their own data, the quality of the data drops because it relies on a certain amount of human subjectivity involved, number one. And number two, people get lazy. They do it, religiously for a day or two or three, and then they start to, skip every other day and so on. Whereas when you've got a wearable device that does it automatically, that data is being aggregated and forwarded on for some actionable results, whether you're a part of that process or not. So yeah, those are two, really, really important points, along with the fact that, like I said, ours, the artificial intelligence driven is giving more and more meaningful data all the time, and the applicability to many, many other chronic conditions besides diabetes. So as successful as Livongo has been, we do, in fact, see several areas where we think that we can improve.
So here's
go
what I
ahead.
understand. If Livongo was bought for $18 billion, right? Your technology, in theory, I mean, it seems like it's a much better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, could AIML be bought out for just $1 billion, 1.8 billion, 10% of the value? In other words, what is there a pathway to that?
Clearly, we have, that sort of blue sky potential. Clearly, that you use your imagination in terms of the demographics that we're going after, in terms of the geographic market. Yeah, I mean, it's literally a global market that's available to us. So, do we have the potential to be a buyout target at numbers that meet or even exceed at some point in time Livongo's? Absolutely, that's a real possibility. Our business model is also important in that it is a SaaS model. It's a software as a service. And again, for your viewers that aren't familiar with that, think of utilities that everybody uses every day, like Dropbox. Dropbox is actually software, and you're using it as a service, and you're paying a monthly subscription. That's our exact business model. We're looking at a model that charges the user about $25 per user per month. And again, we're paid not by the ultimate end user, but by the channel partner, which is the insurance company or the healthcare company or the corporation. And that platform is it's completely scalable. We can grow this thing globally. The sky's the limit. And many of the potential partners that we are in dialogue with today represent potential markets for us of 10,000 or more, patients or employees. And so we have ready access to very large sets of subscribers very readily. And the platform it's commercialized. It's being rolled out as we speak. So I think that's an important point.
Yeah, no, I think that for investors, that's like a very significant point here. You're not selling to consumers. Your customer is the insurance company. Whatever doctor groups.
That's right. Fortune 500 companies and so on.
Yeah, where they're bringing you 10,000, 5,000, 20,000, 1,000. So and $25 a month per, multiply those numbers. So there's a tremendous opportunity to scale, quickly. So my question is, what are you doing? How are you marketing this? How are you going to scale this? Like, how are you going to go after all these groups?
Right. So right now we have several different pilot projects coming up over the upcoming weeks and months that I hopefully I'll be back on your show to tell you more about each and every one of those. And each of those projects represent potentially, 8-figure contracts in their own right, and they're all with major corporations with household names. The reason why we're able to get in front of them is because we do have a solution that is unique and timely, and a part of the digital tech solution that has been, for the most part, overlooked to date. And so we're filling that gap that the teledocs of the world just haven't been able to fill. And also, the founders of HealthGauge have a background in this industry. Randy Duguay, who's the CEO of AIML, who I've worked with closely for the last year or more now on this project, comes from the digital healthcare space. He was one of the executives with TELUS Health, which is one of the leading Canadian digital healthcare providers. And so in that role, he was able to meet and network with the key players within the industry and use that now to as the launch pad to get in front of some of the big industry potential strategic partners for us.
So, Tim, you mentioned, okay, so, buried in this, you mentioned something very critical. You said you're going after 8-figure contracts.
Absolutely. So
8 figures is, if I'm doing my math correctly, is over $10 million.
That's right.
A year.
Per year. Yeah, absolutely.
Here is kind of, this is I think what's impressive is the numbers. I went for the first time with you. Again, I'm sorry this lag with the internet happening, but if you have 100,000 subscribers, which is not a lot, it's like a drop in the bucket for what you get 100,000 subscribers, which you can get from a dozen contracts. I mean, a couple of insurance companies, doctor groups. That's 100,000 people. $25 a month each is that they're paying. That's 2.5 million a month revenues. 30 million a year, which is not even a lot. 30 million a year is nothing. But the market would value you if you can scale to that within 12 months. The market would value it 25, 30x. So $700 million, $1 billion valuation for the business.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's important to stress, Jack, in the scenarios you're painting, is that this is reoccurring revenue. This is subscription revenue, and so every time we sign a new contract, we're not starting from square one at the beginning of each month, at zero revenue and trying all over again. We're building upon what our revenue base was in the previous month, the previous quarter, the previous year, and so we grow exponentially that way. It's like the power of compound interest. It's that sort of same model, and that's where the numbers get completely crazy, is when you get a couple of years down the road and you've piled one contract on top of another, and you have reoccurring revenues from each and every one of them. Yeah, the numbers get pretty impressive pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean that's why the market pays massive multiples on any SaaS business, right? Especially healthcare SaaS, which is
of course.
So this is what I like about looking from the investor perspective is looking at this. Okay, if these guys get some traction, if they just start, not even if they get meaningfully, but if they start to show the potential to get that traction, the stock will take off.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're absolutely right. There's tremendous potential, and as I said, we grow each year upon the base that was that existed the year before or the month before, and so the numbers get increasingly more impressive time after time.
You got assistants running around.
I do, girls. You have to leave. Sorry about that.
No worries. We're part of the entertainment. We're adding financial entertainment. We get a whole thing going on here. By the way, I just saw this message. Apparently, is so the problem with the internet. It looks like there's some internet provisioning problems happening on the East. So I think that's where we're getting some delays, some issues. Some crazy stuff. Okay, I want to ask you a question. Let's get some audience questions. Eric is asking. I think what Eric is really asking is, what's the data? Let's talk about all the different data points that you can get. You can get temperature, blood pressure. What are all the things you can get?
Yeah, so you can get heart rate and heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is a really important number that a lot of lay people don't understand. And what it's measuring is the variance within a normal cycle as to how many beats per minute that your heart will beat at. And And counterintuitively, the higher the number, the better. When you have, professional athletes, that variability number will be, up over 100, and with elderly people, that number will be down at 20 or 30 type of thing. But a very useful parameter for doctors. So you've got heart rate variability, of course, blood pressure, blood oxygen levels. It provides ECG or EKG readouts, PPG readout, which is again an oxygen readout, BMI and weight, temperature, sleep patterns. So viewers of yours who have sleep issues, and a lot of people don't even realize that they have sleep issues until they use a device like this and see for themselves how erratic their sleep patterns are at night and why they wake up in the morning exhausted because it wasn't a restful sleep. And activity patterns. So through the day, your number of steps and the number of miles that you walk, or specific activities that you're involved with, like tennis and cycling and swimming and so on. It'll monitor all those sorts of things. The next generation will also do another set of parameters that are specific to certain other diseases, including the ability to measure sodium levels in your blood. Of course, blood sugar is a really important one, and even the presence of different prescription drugs or non-prescription drugs. It's able to give measurements on certain types of important pharmaceuticals in your system that are all incredibly important data for your healthcare provider, and the sorts of things that when you go in for a checkup, it's the first thing that the doctor will spend in the first 15 minutes of the checkup figuring out. Well, we've done that part of the job for them. We've given them that actionable information around the clock in real life scenarios. And that's the other important thing, as opposed to a clinical setting, which may or may not give useful feedback. We're providing that sort of information in real life scenarios, from work scenarios to sleep to times of the day when you're stressed and so on and so forth. So far more useful data that's going back to your healthcare provider.
Okay, but you don't just stop at getting the data. I mean, you're the AI, the machine learning. What are you doing then with that data? What kind of analysis are you doing? And value.
There's two levels of analysis, or maybe a better way of saying it. There's two sets of results that are provided. One is through the phone app, which is made very user-friendly and made for the client, the wearer themselves. And it's giving very visual and graphic feedback on the go that any layperson can look at and understand and make some meaningful decisions of their healthcare and their situation on the fly by looking at their app. That's one level of information that's provided. The second level of information that's provided is through our platform, and that is far more technical medical data, like the ECG readout and the PPG readout, and things that, unless your user is a medical doctor, they're probably not going to understand or be able to make any sort of actionable decision based upon, but their healthcare provider certainly can. And so there's the two very distinct sets of results that are provided. One that the user themselves can easily, readily use without any sort of instruction or medical training. And the second is a high level of real medical data that your doctor or nurse or other healthcare providers can use as real meaningful medical data.
Okay, so we got so I think Dill, I guess he's adding guess another potential use case, monitoring vitals of infants, awareness of cardiac anomalies, which can be, so there's a lot of, oh, here we go. He's adding more. This guy's, we got a doctor. We have a doctor in the house, or future doctor.
Yeah,
so,
and what's important with respect to that viewer's comment is that, remember, we're really agnostic as to how the data is collected. So sure, we focus on this type of device because it's something that people understand. The wrist is a beautiful piece of real estate from which to gather up some of these, vital signs and information for your doctor. But it's certainly not the only way to do it. Other wearable devices, it can be in a necklace form. It can be, in the case of, let's say, an infant, put right inside the diaper they're wearing or the pajamas they're wearing, as an example. So we really don't care how the data is being aggregated, and there literally are hundreds of companies that are doing exactly that today. They're putting these wearable sensors into everything from tennis shoes to belts to shirts to underwear. And all that is applicable and useful in different situations. And from our perspective, we're happy to use any and all of them because we just want to get our hands on the data, however it's aggregated, and use that to generate this actionable outcome data that is meaningful both to the patient and to the doctor.
Okay, we get Nathan is there. I think actually this ties into the Bill Gates Foundation study, right? So he's asking, does your AI tech rely on constant? Can it function for some time off the grid?
Jack, you still there? I think I lost you.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Internet. Okay. So Nathan is asking, does your AI tech rely on constant connectivity, or can it function off the grid?
So one of the beautiful things that we discovered in the Bill Gates study, Bill Gates funded study, was that it works admirably off the grid. The user themselves is still getting meaningful data from the combination of our wearable device and the cell phone that was provided to them. Most of these ladies in the villages didn't have cell phones because they lived in areas that had no cell access, and so they had no need for cell phones. So the cell phones were provided to them. But the combination of our wearable device plus the app on our phone was enough to give them meaningful, usable data in the interim while they were waiting for the nurse to show up for the weekly visit, who would then gather up the hard data and download it onto their devices and take it back into areas where there were cell phone access, and then the data would go up into the cloud and be provided to the hospital system and the doctors and so on and so forth. But in the interim, while that was going on and the end user was waiting for some sort of input and feedback from the doctors themselves, they still did have the wearable device and the app that was providing useful input and data on an ongoing basis. And so it showed that our system is very configurable to all sorts of different systems and situations. Even one like that you would think, if there's ever a situation where technology, a cloud-based technology, is going to be of limited or no use at all, it would be under that sort of scenario where you have no connectivity. But we demonstrated that, in fact, there still is benefit to the user even under that sort of scenario.
Yes, I mean, so that's very interesting. I mean, so this Gates Foundation study, right? I think there's a couple of takeaways here for investors. Number one is, it's a very strong validation of of your technology, and it's used in the developing world, right? So because there's a couple of billion people who let's just say 3 billion people, right? So the market opportunity is there's 3 billion people, who are potential customers who don't have internet access, but they still have a need for healthcare monitoring. And here's the thing: have the foundation, the Bill Gates Foundation, of others who are a lot of at the developing world, health, solving challenges. They love technology, so this could be very interesting to watch down the road. No,
clearly, it's really nice to know that there's applicability for our technology across the globe, regardless. It's not just a situation where, well, in areas where there's 5G connectivity, our product works. No, our product can work literally under any and all scenarios. In terms of technology infrastructure, and then on top of that, it's applicable to every sort of chronic health condition where the patients need to be monitored, and so forth. So great flexibility and applicability, and we were pleased to see that sort of outcome from the study.
I just sort of something else. Because again, one of the great things about your technology, the health monitoring, all the different issues. And again, we have one of our audience members, Dr. Ken, is mentioned. He's had a bunch of comments on how this can be used for infant specifically. But again, like we're talking, first we're talking about in the U.S., North America, the developed world. You have internet connectivity. My activity may not be so normal, but there's, but in the one of the benefits of using the monitoring is that essentially the patient does not have to go to the doctor every couple of days for these very important things that need to be monitored, right? Which is a big issue in the Bangladesh, in India, in Africa, in whatever, Indonesia, where you talk about 3 billion people don't have, there's billions of people that don't have access to a local doctor, and this would be one of the where this would be very beneficial. And you have, I think, from the business side, you have, like, again, these foundations that are throwing massive amounts of money. Bill Gates, I think, what is it? Buffett. There's also wealthy guys throwing at healthcare in the what's his name, Zuckerberg, Google. These guys. I think they're gonna even throw more money because they want to show people that they're good guys. I mean, when you have 100, spread the money around, but you don't get. You'd be
surprised. I mean, you're absolutely right. You mentioned the applicability in some of the developing nations where they don't have ready access to healthcare, but you'd be surprised even throughout the industrialized world, throughout North America. Look into the Midwest, look across the western provinces in Canada, where you have some small towns and native reservations and so on, where maybe the nearest doctor's office, okay, it's not hundreds of miles away, but it's still 30 miles away. It's not convenient, and technology like this really fills that void. But even when you live right in the city center, in times like what we've all experienced in the last year, where if you called up your doctor at any point in the last 12 months and said, "Yeah, doc, I'm not feeling real great, maybe I'll stop by for a visit," what you would have heard from your doctor invariably, regardless of where you lived in the world, was, "Yeah, do not come to my office. Do not go to the hospital unless it's absolutely, life-threatening because of the coronavirus." And so a lot of people who are used to getting chronic monitoring, chronic attention from their healthcare providers, in the last year weren't able to get that. They had no access because of the situation with the coronavirus. And so they were forced to maybe go without. A lot of them went without. For example, a doctor friend of mine in Europe was telling me how in the last year, as a direct result of the coronavirus and the fact that diabetics did not have access on as regular a basis to their healthcare providers as they should have, the number of amputations related to diabetes went up by 25%. 25%. So think about that. How many people ended up having to have a leg amputated as a result of circulation loss related to diabetes because in the last year they weren't able to go see their doctor? How many people died of a heart attack because they had chest pains but weren't able or they were scared to go into the hospital because of the coronavirus? And so when you look at the collateral damage that was caused by the things like coronavirus, that could be mitigated to a great degree using technology like ours, it's staggering. It's staggering. So there's tremendous application. So yes, in the third world where they don't have such great access to medical infrastructure, but here, right on our own doorstep, people are suffering, people are dying because they're not having the level of access to the healthcare system that they need.
So Nathan is asking something which we talked about last week on our live, which is or to how like the car, the insurance companies for auto insurance, they give you a device to stick in your car so they can monitor how you drive. Are you speeding? Are you braking suddenly? So this could be what are you doing with? You're doing something with insurance companies where they can maybe data or reduce something.
Sure. So I mentioned that our model is strictly a B2B model, and we're dealing with the channel partners. And the channel partners are the conduit through to the end user, people like you and I, who can benefit from the use of a monitor like this. But who we actually do our business with are the insurance companies or the accountable care organizations or other healthcare organizations, hospitals, and so on, or large companies. Many large companies self-insure just because the cost of healthcare through insurance companies is so prohibitive that it's cheaper for them to provide employer-based health coverage than going through an insurance company. And all those companies are interested and are potential users of our technology, supplying it to their subscribers or to their employees in the case of businesses. And I gave one example last week to another one of your callers in that there's, for example, there's a very large trucking company that has tens of thousands of employees, truckers on the road all day, all times of day and night, 24 hours a day, all over North America.
They got to monitor how their health. Are they sleeping?
Exactly.
Massive liability.
Exactly. These guys are pulling long hours on the road. A lot of them aren't necessarily in the best of health for a variety of reasons, or they're sleep deprived. And the ability of a technology like ours to be able to give very immediate and actionable feedback both to the wearer, to the truck driver, and to their employer is incredibly valuable and pays for itself
immediately.
After one incident. Just think about it. The cost involved to an employer or an insurance company that revolves around one incident, whether it's one employee having a heart attack, for example, that could have been discovered earlier and maybe prevented, or a trucker who has had a seizure or has been taking some sort of sleep deprivation, or they're taking amphetamines so that they can stay awake longer on the road. Our device will give very immediate and actionable feedback to them and to their employer, and help prevent an accident before it happens. And so the tiny cost of using our device against the cost of what potentially could occur to that employee or to other people out on the road, it's there's no comparison. And so that's why there's a high level of interest from all these different types of companies. So exactly what your user was alluding to.
Tim, I think, like, you're talking about this example of using this, in the truck, just for the trucking industry. I think that's just one tiny vertical. I mean, there's so many applications, but this is a place where this is an industry where, you may have, let's say a customer, or I don't know if it's the insurance company who's going to be your customer, or it's the trucking company. You're talking about tens of thousands of people. $25 a month per person is nothing. I mean, they're probably I don't know how much they're paying for a truck or for the insurance. The liability insurance, it must be, it's significant. So that $25 can give them massive savings, because one of their big issues is probably they can't monitor the guy's sleep, their health, so they can get an accurate gauge of their risk, right? So this basically gives them, accurate risk management, which is key for the insurance. I mean, this is like, your thing could be it's a real game changer.
Completely.
I'm excited to see what kind of news you're going to have coming up, because I want to see like the rate of adoption. I mean, I think the investors should be watching rate of adoption, contracts you're signing, to see they can see that pace. So what do you have coming up? You have this Bill Gates news that came out. What else do you have in the pipeline for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, and so I'm not going to talk too much about our news going forward, because I want to keep it a bit of a surprise, but do stay tuned for definitely some pilot projects that will be announced, certainly this quarter. Also, the other thing, we are hot on the trail of some potential acquisitions, some other companies that have technologies and market shares that dovetail very, very nicely with what HealthGauge is doing. And stay tuned for some interesting upcoming information and news on some acquisitions happening as well. So.
Tim, on that note, we'll leave it right there. It's a good. Okay, thank you, Tim. Thank you again for joining us. Thanks for the update on the Bill Gates news. Thank you, everybody, for joining our live stream. Sorry about the internet speeds. Apparently it's some issue on the East Coast that's causing problems. But anyway, thank you again. We'll see you in the next live stream.
Thanks, Jack.